Hi and welcome, my name is Lawrence Baker. This video is going to be about the split toning panel inside of Lightroom. I'm using Lightroom CC. It's currently January 2017. I don't believe split toning has changed since the very early days of Lightroom, and I don't think it will change much in the future either. Split toning has its roots in the past when we had film and we just in the darkroom added colour to the highlights and the shadows. So as simple as that really. So let's get started. Now this image I deliberately shot so the foreground will be black, but I'm going to go through the process of cropping it and developing it quickly, then going straight to the split toning panel. So R on my keyboard. I don't like the overlay. O for overlay, will cycle through the overlays. Golden spiral. I could go Shift and O and move it around the screen. It's fine there. I want the tree to be the subject of the golden spiral. Bring it up from the bottom because I want much of that sky as possible because there's no detail there, and I want to keep it like that as well. So R on my keyboard. Is it straight? Quickly transform. Level will probably do for this one. I might try auto as well. No, it doesn't do much, so that's fine. It might be seen that it's actually skewing to the right or left. The way I would check it is by pressing R on my keyboard again, cycling through the overlay till I came to the grid and just eyeballing it and saying, yes, that looks fine. So escape will get rid of the crop tool. Right, let's quickly develop this image. I'm going to try... I'll just pick one because there's not a lot of white balance to play with here because I haven't got a great range of colour or anything. So I might try cloudy. I'm just stabbing really, or daylight. Or I can move the sliders myself. If I want a little bit more moody, I could do that. I could just make it a little bit warmer. I might make it a little bit moodier because I'm going to introduce, I've decided, a warm colour to the highlights with the split toning panel. I don't need to add a tint because it's not necessary because I'm going to use split toning. I could go auto. That will brighten up the shadows. That's not what I want. So I'm just going to bring the shadows back down until they're almost black. You can see I'm clipping out those areas there. If you mouse over the arrow, you'll see I've got clipped shadows which are showing up in blue. So let's give it a little bit of clarity. That's about mid-tone contrast, a bit of vibrance because it is very flat, and a little bit of colour, but the split toning is going to do the rest. Right, split toning. Very straightforward, very simple, but there's a few little caveats I'm going to point out to you. So let's get started. Hue is colour, and in the digital imaging world, hue means colour, and saturation means how saturated that hue is. So hue and saturation together make colour. So I could pick a hue here, just like that, and then bring up the saturation until I see what I like. Because if you have it at 0, you won't see anything. So you've got to move the saturation slider up. Now, I don't particularly like this method. I will click on the rectangle here and use this method. Now, it's already remembered the last color I had, so you can ignore that. As I mouse around, you will pick colors. It's based on hue, saturation, and brightness, HSB, not RGB. So it kind of goes from 0 degrees, which I can put in there, which is that color there. And then if I click on it again and go 360, it's almost the same color because we're going round the color wheel. So let's get back. That's a bit of a digression there. The effect I'm looking for is a cinematic effect called teal and orange. That's teal or blue in the shadows and orange in the highlights. It's often used in films, for sci-fi films and horror films. It's called color grading when you do it with a video, and the same in Photoshop. There's a color lookup table, but we're trying to emulate this in Lightroom. So let's pick an orange color for the highlights. So that's quite rightly orange. I can play around the saturation, but let's leave it like that for the time being. Don't touch balance yet. Find the teal colour for the shadows or any colour you like. I might go for quite an intense blue there. Don't forget this is very dark, so it's going to overtake the image, but I'm going to play around with saturation and balance in a minute. So let's close that down and let's maybe move the saturation down slightly. Now what balance actually does is it doesn't move the colours around as such. It says let the highlights encroach into the shadows, or the shadows encroach into the highlights. So if I move it to the left, it's saying the blue color I've picked in the shadows, I'm going to pick more of the highlight areas to bring in. In fact, if I move it completely to the left, it makes the whole image blue or teal or turquoise. Let's move it that way, it makes it completely orange. So you get the idea, guys. You're expanding the tonality or the range of the shadows to encroach into the highlights and vice versa. So I don't like that, obviously. Let's move it around a little bit. I might bring the saturation up there. So everything's a trade-off. Of course, I could go back to the basic panel and play around with highlights or exposure to my heart's content. So I might bring the highlights up there to make that, no, I might bring it down and bring the exposure up a little bit. So it's a trade-off all the time about tonality and split toning, etc. So don't feel constrained to stay in the split toning panel. That looks reasonably okay. I could even save this as a preset now, but honestly, my attitude towards presets is they kind of slow you down. I always think use your eye, but if you want to use the presets, you can. There are some presets, I'll show them to you here, presets, and they're here under black and white tone presets. Now, the reason they're called black and white tone presets because mainly split toning is only ever used on black and white or grayscale images. I don't care, I use it where I want, and if I've got a sort of dull coloured image like this one here, which I've made deliberately dull, I can boost it up with split toning. Now I could have used a graduated filter, but that probably with that large amount of sky, it would have been kind of too obvious. So I quite like this effect. So don't feel constrained just to using split toning on black and white images. So I'm not going to play around anymore with that. I think that's absolutely fine. It's nothing special, but I think it's okay. Let's find another image that's in colour, which I'm now going to apply split toning to. Now I've actually got a graduated filter on this. I've done a normal develop, but let's see if I can do anything with split toning. Now it's already quite strongly coloured in the highlights already. So if I put anything there now, it's going to look a bit over the top. So I might play around by putting another sort of cooler colour in. Maybe not. Just flick around a little bit. That's looking quite good actually. I might stay with that. It's kind of a purpley colour, a magenta colour. The shadows, now I could pick, that's not going to work. But I've got an idea a bluey green will work here. And it seems to be working, especially over that rock there. So I'm quite happy with that. So if I turn that on and off now, you can see I've gone from that, which is not bad. I didn't frame this shot very well, so I'm not really bothered about it. So this is why I'm playing around with split toning on it. I'm never really going to show it off anywhere else but this video. I'm quite happy with that. I'm playing around here really a lot actually. Too much. And I might play around the balance to move it towards the shadows a little bit. But that's not bad. It's quite subtle. Let's turn it on and off. Now normally you would use it on a black and white image. Here is a black and white image. I'm going to pick a preset here to show you the presets. Antique light. You can see the sliders move straight away. There we are. Antique light. So it's normally used on black and white photographs. Cyanotype. That's okay. Selenium tone. Selenium tone and cyanotype are well-known split toning methods. So that's a bit dark for that. But you know, you just play around with the sliders. If I think it was a bit dark, why not get the exposure up a little bit? So that's quite a subtle effect on a black and white image. So I don't mind that at all. So there you go, guys. That is split toning. Don't feel constrained to using it only on black and white or grayscale photographs. It works fine on some colour photographs. So use it to be creative. Don't feel constrained to just black and white. That's it, guys. I hope you got something from this. Thanks very much, guys.